The morning sky over Ember Peak looked soft and golden, touched by the fresh light of sunrise. Warm rays rolled down the tall volcanic mountains and spread across the long stone path that led to the Dragon Clan's citadel. On that huge and ancient road, where only dragons and honored guests normally walked, a small human figure appeared, tiny, thin, but walking with a strong purpose in every step. His name was Kale, only 10 years old, but he walked as if his feet carried a message heavier than mountains. His arms clutched a curved piece of shining dragon armor, almost too large for him to hold. The scale piece glimmered red like fire trapped inside a gemstone. Kale pressed it tightly against his chest, as if afraid it might slip away even though it was nearly half his size. The dragon guards at the Ember Peak gates had never seen anything like this. Two huge dragons, Guardian Vorath and Guardian Linthis, leaned down from their tall positions at the gate towers. Their golden eyes followed the tiny boy as he continued forward, one slow step after another. Kyle did not look scared. His face was red from the weight of the armor and from walking a long distance, but his eyes carried something stronger than fear. Curiosity, anger, courage. Vorath lowered his long neck until his shadow covered Kale completely. His voice rumbled like deep thunder, but he tried to keep it gentle so he wouldn't startle the boy. "Little human," Vorath said, "this road is not for children. Why do you come to Ember Peak?" Kale stopped, took a breath, and shouted with all the strength his small body had, "I want to see the Dragon Chief." The dragons blinked. Humans rarely demanded anything at the dragon gates. Most humans approached Ember Peak only after long planning, long fear, and long negotiations. A child walking alone was unheard of. Linthis frowned, her green eyes narrowing thoughtfully. "You want to see Chief Paralian? Do you even understand who he is?" Kale nodded, shifting the heavy armor piece in his arms. "Yes. And I have to talk to him because one of your dragons made my mother cry all night." The guards exchanged surprised looks. This human child had walked all the way up the dangerous mountain trail, carrying a dragon armor scale just to speak about his mother crying. Unusual, very unusual. But there was no rule against honesty. Vorath sighed and opened the gate with a slow, rumbling motion. "Follow us, but walk carefully. Ember Peak is no place for carelessness." Kyle followed, his feet tired but steady. His heart beat fast, but not from fear. He felt something more like determination. He had practiced all night before coming here. He had rehearsed what to say, how to stand tall, how not to cry even if dragons roared or glared at him. Today he was going to speak for his mother, even if he was just a little boy. Inside the citadel, Ember Peak glowed with life. Rivers of warm lava pulsed under crystal floors, lighting the halls with soft orange glimmers. Dragons of all colors walked past, some talking, some carrying crystal tools, some stretching their wings like giant banners. When they noticed Kale, they paused. A human child in Ember Peak was a rare sight. A human child marching with confidence was even rarer. Vorath guided the boy to the Grand Hall of Flames, where the Dragon Council usually met. The hall was enormous, so large that Kale felt like he had walked into the inside of a mountain. Huge stone pillars rose like the legs of giant creatures. Crystals glowed along the ceiling veins like stars in a burning sky. Sitting at the center of the hall, resting on a high carved seat of obsidian, was Chief Paralian, the dragon leader of Ember Peak. His scales were bright silver with hints of royal red at the edges, and his wings were folded neatly behind him. His calm eyes alone felt big enough to reflect an entire world. Paralian watched as Kale stepped forward, struggling slightly with the heavy armor piece. "A human child?" Paralian said softly. "And carrying one of our armor plates? You must have a strong reason to come here alone." Kale swallowed, straightened his back, and stepped into the center of the hall the way he had practiced. He lifted the dragon armor piece with both hands and dropped it on the floor. The loud metallic clang echoed across the entire hall, catching the attention of every dragon present. All eyes turned to the small boy. Kale pointed at the armor plate and said loudly, "Your dragon made my mother cry all night." The hall went silent. Not shocked, more like stunned. Dragons had heard humans complain before, but never had any complaint been thrown so directly, so boldly, and so passionately. Pyralian tilted his head, curious. And which dragon was this? What did they do? Kale took a breath. This was the hard part. He had to speak clearly. He had to make dragons understand things humans felt. "It was the young dragon training yesterday," Kyle said. "The one who flew over our village." A soft murmur spread among the dragons. They knew who he meant. Serath, the energetic young dragon who practiced new flying techniques every morning. Kyle continued. "He didn't hurt anyone, I know that, but he flew so fast that the air made a loud boom sound. It broke some windows. It scared my mother very, very much. And when she gets scared, she cries a long time. Last night she cried until morning. I thought she would stop, but she didn't. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't help her. I couldn't do anything." His small voice cracked slightly, but he steadied himself. He refused to cry in front of dragons. "So, I came here. I walked all the way from our home, because someone has to tell you. Maybe you don't know how loud dragons are. Maybe you don't know how fragile humans are. But my mother cried, and it hurt my heart, and I want her to feel safe again." The dragons listened quietly, not with anger, not with annoyance, with curiosity and a strange softness most humans never saw. Pyralian lowered his great head until his eyes were close to Kyle's level. "Little human, you have walked a long way for such a small request. Most grown men would never dare stand here like this." Kyle swallowed, his voice small but steady. "I didn't come to fight. I just came to tell the truth, and to ask you to make things better, because people are scared of you, and maybe you don't want them to be." The chief blinked slowly, processing the boy's words. "And what do you want from me, Kyle, son of humans? Anger at Serath? Punishment? A loud promise?" Kyle shook his head quickly. "No, I don't want anyone in trouble. I just want my mom not to cry again because of dragons. I want her to sleep without fear. That's all." The hall filled with a warm silence. Pyralian lifted his head again and looked around at the council. "Hear this, child, all of you." His voice echoed deep and solemn. "He came without fear, without hate, without a wish for revenge. He came with only honesty. This is rare, very rare." Kale felt his cheeks warm. He did not come to impress anyone. He only wanted his mother to feel safe. But Pyralian seemed thoughtful, almost impressed. Then the chief turned back to Kale and asked something no dragon had ever asked a human before. "Little one, tell me honestly, what would make your mother feel safe again?" Kale blinked. He hadn't expected that question. He rubbed the back of his neck and thought hard. "Well, maybe if you said you were sorry." A ripple of surprise moved through the dragons. Dragons did not apologize. Dragons made oaths, promises, and declarations. But apologies? That was a human thing. Pyralian's eyes softened. A simple apology? Would that truly matter to humans? Kale nodded. "It matters a lot. It shows that you care. It shows that you didn't mean harm, and it makes fear go away." A long pause followed. Then Pyralian smiled, a slow, warm smile like glowing metal cooling gently. "Then an apology you shall have, and not only for your mother, for all humans who fear our power." Kyle's eyes widened. The chief continued. "We will travel with you to your village. You may ride on my back if you wish. Together, we will show your people that dragons do not wish to cause fear." Kale felt something burst inside his chest. Relief, excitement, hope. He nodded eagerly. "Yes, please, my mother will be so happy." The dragons murmured with interest. A journey to the human village, led by a child? This would be historic, unique, a moment that could change relationships between their kinds. As Kale stood there, breathing hard from excitement and exhaustion, he realized something. He had done it. He had spoken for his mother. He had stood in front of dragons, and they had listened. Today, the world had begun to change, because a little human boy dared to speak from the heart. The next morning in Ember Peak began with quiet excitement. Dragons moved through the citadel, whispering to one another, their wings brushing the crystal walls with soft, rustling sounds. The news had spread quickly. A human child had confronted the chief, and the chief had listened. Kale woke up on a soft bed of warm moss provided by the dragon attendants. He had never slept on anything like it. It felt like a heated cloud. When he sat up, he realized a small group of young dragonlings were peeking at him from behind pillars, trying not to be noticed. One dragonling whispered, "Is that him, the brave human?" Another replied, "He looks so small." Kale pretended not to hear them, but inside he felt both shy and proud. He was still tired from yesterday's long walk and long speech, but he felt ready for today. Something important was going to happen, something that humans would talk about for years, maybe even forever. When Kale stepped into the grand hall again, Chief Pyralian and the council were already waiting. Light from glowing crystals shined along the walls, giving everything a warm, golden glow. The chief lowered his head politely. "Good morning, Kyle. Did you sleep well?" Kyle nodded. "Yes. Thank you for the bed." Some dragons looked confused. For dragons, politeness was shown differently, through posture, through wing angle, through tail movement. Simple phrases like "thank you" felt unusual in the hall, but they liked hearing it. Pyralian's voice was thoughtful. "After you left last night, we discussed your words. Many of us did not know humans felt fear so strongly. We believed humans had grown used to our training flights." Kyle shook his head. "We didn't. We just didn't know how to tell you." The chief nodded slowly. "Then your courage is important. You showed us something we have not seen in a long time. A human speaking from the heart, without fear. Because of you, little one, we will travel to your village today." Dragons around the hall shifted with excitement. Their tails swished lightly across the crystal floor. Kale blinked. "Today? Really?" "Yes," the chief said. "This matter is important, and your mother deserves comfort as soon as possible. Serath will join us too. It is he who must understand humans better." Kyle had heard the name before. Serath, the young dragon whose powerful sonic glide had frightened the village. Kyle wondered what Serath was like. He imagined a huge, wild dragon, maybe loud and dramatic. But when Serath entered the hall, Kale was surprised. Serath was young, about Kale's height when seated, though much longer in body. His scales were pale gold, smooth and shiny like fresh sunlight. He looked nervous, his wings tucked tightly against his sides. He bowed gently. "I did not mean to scare anyone. I was only practicing my speed. I didn't think humans could hear so sharply." Kale shrugged. "It's okay. We can hear a lot. Sometimes loud sounds make us shake inside." Serath tilted his head, thinking about that. "Shake inside? That sounds uncomfortable. I'm sorry." Kyle smiled a little. Serath didn't seem scary at all. Pyralian looked between them with approval. "Good. Understanding begins with simple truth. Today we will show your village that we wish peace, and we will learn more about your way of life." Kale felt a warm swell in his chest. He had never imagined dragons would take humans so seriously. But something had changed since yesterday, something big. And today, both worlds were going to feel it, preparing for the journey. The dragons prepared in their own ways. Some stretched their wings, others packed small crystal gifts, some discussed how to land gently on human soil without frightening anyone. They moved with a mix of excitement and worry. This was new for them too. Kale watched from the steps of the hall amazed. Dragons were huge and shining and powerful, yet today they were the ones trying not to scare humans. It felt strange but comforting. Pyralian approached Kale and lowered himself. "Climb upon my back, Kyle. You will guide us." Kale felt his heart jump. Ride on the dragon, chief? No human in his village had ever done something like that. His hands trembled a little. But he stepped forward and carefully climbed onto Pyralian's back, using the ridges between the chief's silver scales. The scales were warm, not hot, just pleasantly warm like sunlight. Kyle settled between two high ridges that worked like safety handles. Serath stepped forward too, stretching his wings nervously. "I will follow behind. Please tell me if I'm too loud. I don't want to scare anyone again." Kyle nodded. "I'll tell you. Don't worry." The flight to the human village. When the dragons took off, Kale's breath caught in his throat. The ground fell away as Pyralian's wings opened wide, so wide they cast a long shadow over the path below. The air lifted them like a giant hand, and they rose higher and higher until the mountains looked like tiny, dark lines far below. Kyle held on to the ridges tightly, but he wasn't scared. In fact, it felt peaceful. The wind was cool. The sky was endless blue. The clouds drifted below like white ships. A soft voice came from behind, Serath flying in gentle patterns. "Kale, is this speed okay? Am I too loud?" Kale laughed. "You're fine. This feels nice." Serath relaxed. Pyralian chuckled, his deep voice vibrating through his scales. "You may have a talent for calming dragons, young one." Kale grinned proudly. As they flew closer to the human lands, Kale noticed farms, houses, and fields spread like small, colorful patches. Smoke rose from kitchen chimneys, and morning sunlight touched the roofs. Everything looked peaceful from above. But Kale knew people down there were still worried about dragons, about safety, about the loud boom that had shaken their village. Pyralian slowed his flight. "Kale, guide us." "Where is your village?" Kale pointed. "There! The one with the windmill and the river next to it." The dragons descended gently, making sure not to shake the air too much. Kale felt his heart beat faster. He imagined his mother sitting at home, maybe cooking breakfast, not knowing her son would return on a dragon's back. Landing and fear. When the dragons touched down near the fields, farmers working outside dropped their tools. Some gasped, some froze, some shouted warnings to each other. "Dragons! Dragons are landing! Get inside! Protect the children!" Kale quickly stood up on Pyralian's back and waved his hands high. "It's okay! They're friendly! I brought them! Don't be scared!" His voice echoed across the fields. People looked up, confused and shocked. Children peeked from behind doors. Adults stared with wide eyes. No one ran, but no one stepped forward either. Then Pyralian did something no dragon chief had ever done before. He bowed. He lowered his great head until his snout touched the earth in a gentle gesture of respect. His wings folded tight. His eyes were soft and calm. The entire village went quiet. Serath followed his example, bowing so low his forehead almost brushed the ground. The other dragons did the same. Kyle slid down from Pyralian's back, landing on the grass. His legs wobbled from the excitement and the height of the flight, but he kept standing. "Mom!" he shouted, running toward the houses. "It's okay! Please come out! They're here to talk!" Slowly, a door opened. Kale's mother stepped out, wiping her hands on her apron. Her eyes widened when she saw the dragons bowing so humbly. And then she saw Kale standing there, safe, smiling, calling for her. Her hands flew to her mouth. Kale walked up to her, took her hand, and gently pulled her forward. "Mom, Chief Paralian wants to say something." His mother trembled but trusted her son. She stepped closer. Paralian lifted his head slightly, enough to speak. "Mother of Kale, I apologize for the fright my young one caused. The loud sound was not meant to harm. We did not understand your fear. But now we do," Sarath added softly. "I am sorry. Truly. I hope you will not be afraid of me anymore." Kyle's mother stared at them, stunned. Dragons apologizing? Dragons speaking gently? Dragons bowing? She felt tears rise again, but this time they were not from fear. They were from relief. Light breaking through fear. Slowly, other villagers came out to watch. Children approached cautiously, hiding behind their parents' legs. Some adults whispered. Others simply gazed at the scene with awe. Kyle's mother finally found her voice. "Thank you. I was very scared that night, but seeing you like this, I feel safe now." A warm breath of wind passed through the field as Paralian straightened a little. "Then peace begins today, with you, and your brave son who crossed mountains to speak truth." Villagers murmured with amazement, and Kale felt his mother squeeze his hand. She whispered, "You did this, my brave boy." And Kale smiled, feeling something warm and bright settle in his heart. The sun had fully risen now, spreading warm light across the village fields. The grass sparkled with morning dew, and the windmill stood tall, turning slowly in the soft breeze. But the village square had never seen a sight like today. A whole group of dragons standing calmly, wings folded, waiting respectfully while humans gathered nervously around them. Kale stood between Paralian and his mother. His small hand held her fingers tightly. He could feel her shaking a little. But she wasn't crying anymore. In fact, she seemed more amazed than afraid. The villagers whispered among themselves, "Look at their wings. They're so big. Are they really friendly?" At first, the people stayed at a distance, but dragons were patient creatures, and they showed no sign of anger or danger. Their tails rested quietly. Their breathing was slow and relaxed. Even Sarath, the youngest, stood still like a polite student trying not to disturb a classroom. Slowly, courage began to grow among the villagers. A farmer named Rowan stepped closer, wiping dirt from his hands. He glanced at Kale. "Your boy came to talk to us yesterday," Rowan said gently. "Said he was going to fix things. Didn't believe him then." He turned to the dragons, shaking his head in disbelief. "But he really did it." Kale felt his cheeks warm with pride. Paralian lowered his head respectfully to Rowan. "We did not understand the fear our flight caused your people. Young Sarath's training boom was not meant to frighten or harm. It was a mistake born from our ignorance, not our intention." Rowan blinked, then gave a small chuckle. "Well, Chief Dragon, mistakes happen. Humans make plenty too." The villagers laughed softly. The air felt lighter. Kale looked at Sarath, who seemed relieved by the reaction. The young dragon shuffled his claws nervously on the ground. "Kale," Sarath whispered, leaning closer, "I didn't know humans were so gentle. I thought you were braver than this." Kale raised an eyebrow. "We are brave, but loud sounds scare us. Your sonic glide felt like the sky exploding." Sarath's golden scales dimmed with embarrassment. "I didn't realize. It just felt like wind to me." Kyle nodded. "That's why I came to tell you, so you can understand." Sarath's eyes softened. "I'm glad you did." A lesson in human comfort. More villagers gathered, Children peeking out from behind legs, elders leaning on canes, mothers carrying babies who stared wide-eyed at the shining dragons. Kale's mother stepped forward slowly, still holding her son's hand. I want to thank you, she said to Pyralion. I didn't know dragons could be so kind. I only knew the stories. The old scary ones. Pyralion bowed. Old stories rarely show all truths. It is better that new ones begin today. Kyle squeezed his mother's hand again. She gave him a gentle smile. My brave boy gave me courage, too. Behind them, a group of little children whispered excitedly. Can we touch their wings? Or their tails? Do dragons eat children? Sarath overheard this and lifted his head, horrified. Eat children? Why would we eat children? They're too loud. Kyle burst out laughing, and soon the children laughed too. See, Kyle said, they don't eat anyone. One brave girl stepped forward and raised her hand. Can I touch your scales? Sarath hesitated, then slowly lowered his head. Gently, please. I'm ticklish. The girl giggled and placed her hand on his smooth golden scales. The other children followed, touching him softly like he was a giant friendly pet. Sarath's eyes glowed with surprise and delight. Humans are soft, he whispered, and dragons are warm, a child replied. The Council of Repair. After a while, the adults gathered in the village square to discuss what should be done about the damage from the sonic boom. Several windows were cracked, one roof tile had fallen, and a few fences had broken. Normally, repairing all that would take days, but today the dragons were trying to show goodwill. Pyralion spoke to his council members in a low, vibrating hum. They nodded their massive heads and spread out through the village. The people watched in disbelief as dragons began helping with repairs. One dragon breathed a small, controlled puff of warm air, melting broken tiles just enough to fix them back into place. Another used her strong tail to lift heavy beams while humans hammered them in. Sarath, trying his best, carried wooden planks carefully in his mouth and placed them exactly where the builders pointed. Kale watched with wide eyes. Dragons helping humans? This feels like a dream. His mother touched his shoulder. No dream, Kale. You helped it happen. Teaching dragons human ways. Repair work slowed by midday. The villagers offered food, bread, fruit baskets, honey jars. Dragons normally didn't eat human food, but they accepted the gifts politely. Kyle sat on a large wooden crate while Sarath curled beside him, watching humans pass by. Kyle, Sarath said, why do humans say so many small phrases, like, thank you, excuse me, sorry, please? Dragons don't have all those. Kyle smiled. They help us not hurt feelings? Feelings? Yeah. If you bump someone by accident and you say sorry, they know you didn't mean harm. If you ask with please, it shows you respect them. Sarath blinked. So saying small words makes humans feel safe? Kale nodded. Very. Want to practice? Sarath tried to sit tall and noble. Yes, I want to learn. Kale cleared his throat dramatically. Okay, first. Thank you. Sarath repeated slowly. Tank, you? Kyle laughed. Close. Try again. Thank you. Perfect. Sarath smiled proudly. This is easy. Next, Kyle said, say, I'm sorry. Sarath blushed under his scales. I already said that many times today. Practice again, Kale said, but gentler. Sarath lowered his head softly. I'm sorry. Good. And now, please. Please, Kale giggled. Yep. Now put them all together. Sarath took a breath, thinking hard. Thank you for teaching me. I'm sorry I scared your mother. Please tell her I will be careful from now on. Kale felt a happy warmth inside. You learned fast. Sarath lifted his wings proudly. I want humans to trust me. and Kale believed they would. A new kind of meeting. Later in the afternoon, the village elders arranged chairs in a circle in the square. They invited the dragons to sit, or coil, around with them. It looked funny, tiny wooden chairs beside giant dragon bodies, but the atmosphere was warm and peaceful. Kale sat between his mother and Sarath. Elder Rowan, the village leader, cleared his throat. "This is the first human dragon circle in our valley's history," he said. "Let us use it well." Pyralian nodded. "Let us speak with truth." The elder smiled. "First, we want to thank you for coming. No dragon has ever visited us like this. No human child has ever walked to Ember Peak alone before," Pyralian replied. "It took courage. Your son taught us much." Kale's mother looked at her son with shining eyes. She gently brushed his hair back from his forehead. Villagers began to share. A mother talked about how the sonic boom woke her baby. A farmer spoke about the animals panicking. A teacher mentioned that children were afraid to go outside. The dragons listened closely, asking questions. "Why do human babies cry at loud noises? Do your houses break easily? How can we fly without frightening your animals?" Every answer helped them understand humans better. Then dragons shared their side too. They explained how sonic glides worked, how they practiced speed, how they never meant to harm, how they thought humans had grown comfortable being neighbors. People nodded thoughtfully. Fear began to soften into understanding. Sarath's promise. Finally, Sarath raised his head. He looked very nervous, but he spoke clearly. "I want to give something to Kale's mother." He reached under his wing and pulled out a small, shimmering crystal, glowing with soft golden light. "It's a memory crystal," Sarath explained. "It shows what I felt the moment I realized I scared your village, and how sorry I was." Kyle's mother gasped softly. "I've never seen something so beautiful." Sarath pushed it gently toward her. "Please take it. I want you to know I didn't want to cause pain." Kale's mother held the glowing crystal with trembling fingers. Tears formed again, but these tears were gentle, warm, full of peace. "Thank you," she whispered. "Truly, thank you." Sarath bowed deeply. "I will fly far behind Ember Peak for training from now on. I will never make a sonic boom near humans again, I promise." Kyle smiled wide. His mother smiled too. The villagers relaxed. The dragons felt lighter. A new bond had formed, not with fear, but with trust. And Kyle, sitting between the two worlds, knew something magical had begun today. Evening began to settle over the village like a soft blanket, painting the sky in warm shades of orange and pink. The long day had been filled with repairs, lessons, apologies, and new understanding. Humans were tired. Dragons were tired. But hearts felt lighter than ever before. Kyle stood outside the village square, watching as the first lanterns were lit. Their gentle glow spread across the fields, making everything look calm and safe. The windmill's long shadow stretched across the ground, reaching all the way to the spot where Pyralian and Sarath rested. The dragons had folded their wings neatly and curled their tails around their bodies. They looked peaceful, almost like giant, warm statues of shining scales. Children still whispered and pointed at them quietly, but now with wonder instead of fear. Kale walked toward Pyralian, carrying a wooden cup of warm herbal tea for him. He held it out shyly. "This is for you. Humans drink this in the evening. It helps us relax." Pyralian lowered his great head and sniffed the cup. His silver eyes softened. "Thank you, young Kale. You teach us continued kindness with every small gesture." Kale smiled. He felt proud again, proud that dragons respected him, proud that his village felt safe again, proud that his mother wasn't crying anymore. Sarath approached, trying to peek into the cup. "Do humans drink hot plants?" he asked with confusion. Kyle laughed. Yes, it tastes nice. You can try it if you want. Sarath sniffed it too, but immediately pulled back. It smells strange, like sweet grass. Kyle giggled. That's mint. It's good. I believe you, Sarath said politely, but I think I will drink only water today. An invitation to the fire circle. As the sky turned darker, Elder Rowan stepped forward with a warm smile. Tonight, he announced, we will have a story circle. Humans and dragons will sit together and share tales. We want you to know our stories, and we want to hear yours. A soft ripple of excitement passed through the villagers. They had never invited dragons to sit by their fire. Dragons had never accepted such an offer. Piralian gave a respectful nod. We are honored. Storytelling is important to our culture as well. It brings hearts closer. The villagers arranged large logs around a central fire pit. The fire crackled to life, sending warm sparks into the sky. Even the stars seemed to peek out early, curious to watch this moment. Kale sat beside his mother, while Sarath curled up nearby like a golden guardian. Piralian settled opposite Elder Rowan, his wings folded gracefully behind him. The circle felt magical, humans with candles in their hands, dragons glowing faintly under the firelight. It was the first time in history that both species shared a peaceful night together. The first story, a human memory elder, Rowan began. Long ago, he said, our valley was small. Houses were built with simple wood and straw. We lived quietly, farming the land. Dragons flew far above us, and we thought they did not even know we existed. Kale listened closely. So did Sarath, who leaned forward with wide, curious eyes. Rowan continued. One night a great storm came. Lightning struck the hills and a fire spread toward our homes. We ran, carrying our children, trying to escape. We thought we would lose everything. The villagers grew quiet, remembering the tale. But just before the fire reached us, Rowan said, smiling softly, a group of dragons flew down from the mountains. With one great sweep of their wings, they pushed the flames away and saved our valley. Kyle blinked. Dragons helped us even back then. Rowan nodded. Yes, but humans were too afraid to approach them afterward. They saved us, then flew away silently. Piralian hummed a deep, thoughtful sound. Our ancestors believed helping without praise was the greatest honor. They did not expect thanks. Maybe, Rowan said, but if we had spoken to them then, perhaps we would have been friends much earlier. Kale's mother nodded in agreement. Fear keeps hearts far apart, even when kindness is nearby. The fire crackled softly, warming everyone's faces. The second story, a dragon memory. Now it was Piralian's turn. The chief lifted his head, letting the sparks of the fire reflect in his silver scales. Many generations ago, he began. Dragons lived high in Ember Peak and rarely came down. We believed humans were fragile, like fallen leaves that crumble at a single touch. Because of that, we avoided you. We thought we would break your peace simply by being close. Gasps rose from the villagers. They had never imagined dragons could see them that way. Piralian continued. But one day, a young dragonling wandered too far and got trapped in a narrow cave. He cried and cried, but no dragon could reach him. His mother roared for hours, trying to widen the cave, but the rock was thick and stubborn. Sarath lowered his head, feeling the weight of the story. Kyle's eyes widened with worry. What happened? Piralian's voice softened. A group of humans heard the dragonling's cries. They brought ropes, tools, and water. They worked together all night. At sunrise, they opened a small passage and rescued the young dragon. Kale's mother pressed a hand over her heart. Humans did that? Yes, Piralian said. And from that day on, our elders understood that humans were not helpless at all. You may be small, But your hearts are powerful. Kyle felt warmth in his chest. For the first time, dragons were not above humans. Humans were not below dragons. Instead, they were equal in spirit. Sarath spoke softly. Your people helped us when we could not help ourselves. That is a strong thing. The villagers smiled. Food, laughter, and small questions. As more stories were shared, the fire circle relaxed. Children dared to sit closer to Sarath. Adults passed around baskets of roasted corn and warm bread. Dragons tried small bites of fruit, curious about human snacks. A little boy asked Pyralian, "Can dragons laugh?" Pyralian smiled. "Our laughter sounds like warm wind. Listen." He exhaled a gentle gust that made leaves dance in the air. The children giggled happily. Another child asked Sarath, "Do dragons dream?" Sarath nodded quickly. "Yes, I dream of flying through waterfalls made of light." The children clapped in amazement. Kale watched all of this with growing joy. The same people who had trembled with fear that morning were now sitting comfortably beside dragons, sharing food, stories, and curiosity. His mother leaned close and whispered, "This is beautiful, Kale. You brought two worlds together." Kale looked at Sarath, then at Pyralian, then at the smiling villagers. He realized she was right. A gift of light. Near the end of the night, Pyralian raised one wing to get everyone's attention. "Humans of the valley," he said gently, "we wish to offer a symbol of peace." From under his wing, he lifted a glowing crystal, larger than the memory crystal Sarath had given earlier. This one shimmered with many colors, like a tiny rainbow trapped inside stone. "This is the heart glow crystal," Pyralian explained. "It collects the light of the sunrise and spreads it at night. No darkness can hide near it. We offer it to your village. Let it remind you that dragons wish only harmony." The villagers gasped in awe as Pyralian gently placed the crystal in the center of the square. It shone with a steady, warm light that made the surrounding houses glow softly. Kyle stepped forward. "It's beautiful." Sarath nodded proudly. "It will protect your nights. It listens to fear and replaces it with calm." Kyle's mother whispered, "Our home has never felt so safe." A promise for the future. The fire grew lower as midnight approached. People began to return to their homes, smiling, waving, thanking the dragons. Children hugged Sarath's leg before running off. Sarath looked at Kale with shining eyes. "This was the best day of my life. I never knew humans were so fun and kind." Kale grinned. "I never knew dragons were gentle and friendly." Pyralian lowered his head. "Kale, your voice changed everything. You showed us truth. You showed us courage. Because of you, we will create new rules, rules that protect your people from fear and guide dragons to fly with care." Kale's heart swelled with pride. His mother hugged him from behind. "You are my brave boy," she whispered. "My little bridge between worlds." Kale hugged her back, smiling into her arms. A night to remember. As the last embers of the fire faded, Kyle looked up at the sky. The stars sparkled peacefully. The heart-glow crystal shone softly in the square. Dragons rested calmly beside human houses. The entire world felt new. Two worlds had finally met, not with fear, not with anger, but with shared stories and gentle hearts. And Kale knew that this night would be remembered forever. Morning came slowly to the valley. Soft pink light spread across the sky, touching rooftops, fields, and the quiet river with gentle warmth. Birds chirped from tree branches, singing brighter than usual, as if they too felt that something special had happened the night before. Kyle woke before anyone else. He opened the small window beside his bed and looked outside. The heart-glow crystal still shone softly in the village square. Even as the sunlight grew stronger, Its rainbow-like light mixed with the sunrise, making everything look magical. Kale stretched and whispered to himself, "Today is going to be different. I can feel it." He dressed quickly and stepped outside. The air was cool but pleasant. A few villagers were already awake, sweeping porches or carrying water buckets. Many stopped and stared toward the field where the dragons slept. There, curled gently in the soft grass, were Pyralion and Serath, along with the other dragons. Their wings rested peacefully. Their bodies glowed faintly under the sunrise. Kyle ran toward them, waving happily. "Good morning." Serath opened one eye and yawned in a very dragon-like way. A small puff of warm air came out, not dangerous at all. "Good morning, Kyle," he said sleepily. "Humans wake up too early." Kale laughed. "Dragons sleep too much." Pyralion lifted his head, stretching his wings before folding them neatly again. "It seems we dragons have much to learn from humans, and also much to teach." Kyle nodded excitedly. "Today we can start planning the new rules, right?" Pyralion smiled. "Yes. Today we begin shaping a future where our two worlds walk together, not apart." Morning in the village. As the sun rose higher, more villagers came out of their homes. Some carried baskets of bread, fruit, and cheese. Others brought warm water or fresh milk. It quickly became clear that the villagers wanted to thank the dragons. Children ran happily around Serath, holding drawings they made overnight. Some drew dragons flying over farms. Others drew Kale riding Pyralion. Serath carefully examined each drawing. "Look, Kale, they made me look so shiny," he said proudly. Kale giggled. "You are shiny." Serath lifted his chin confidently. "Well, yes, that is true." Kale's mother arrived next, carrying a small tray of warm honey biscuits. She bowed politely to Pyralion. "These are for you," she said. "Thank you for bringing peace to our hearts." Pyralion accepted the tray gently. "Your kindness strengthens the bond we began yesterday." For the first time in many years, the village felt free of fear. Instead of hiding from dragons, people were walking toward them, offering food, asking questions, showing smiles. Kale realized something important. Fear grows when silence grows, but understanding grows when hearts are open. Planning the Harmony Pact, around mid-morning, Elder Rowan called everyone to the large meeting field near the river. Wooden benches were arranged for humans. Dragons sat behind them, forming a protective half-circle. Kyle sat in the front row beside his mother. Serath curled up behind him, resting his chin on Kale's shoulder comfortably. Rowan cleared his throat. "Today, we begin writing the Human-Dragon Harmony Pact so that our valley will always stay safe, calm, and united." The villagers nodded. Pyralion stepped forward slowly, his silver scales glimmering. "Let these new rules be made together, with honesty and respect." And so the discussions began. One villager raised a hand. "Dragons must warn us when training." Pyralion nodded. "We agree. We can send signals, lights in the sky or gentle horn sounds." Another villager said, "Maybe dragons can avoid flying low over houses?" Serath added quickly, "We can fly higher. I will fly extra high myself." Everyone smiled. A farmer suggested, "If dragons ever need anything from our land, like water or materials, please ask first." Pyralion replied, "Of course. Asking is a sign of respect." Kale raised his hand shyly. "Can humans visit Ember Peak too? Not just dragons visiting us?" The dragons looked at each other in surprise. Pyralion asked softly, "Do humans wish to walk among us?" Kale nodded. "Yes. If we learn about each other, no one will fear." Rowan stroked his beard. "A few humans could go at a time, perhaps? With guides?" Pyralion smiled warmly. "We would welcome that." The dragons and humans talked for a long time. They created simple, clear rules. Dragons would train far from the village. Humans could visit Ember Peak with invited guides. Signal lights would warn of any dragon activity. Both species would share stories and events twice a year. The Heartglow crystal would be cared for by both worlds. And most important, no decisions would be made without listening to each other first. When the pact was completed, Rowan lifted the wooden tablet proudly. This is a new beginning. Kyle felt something warm inside him. It wasn't pride exactly. It was hope. Kale's honor. After the pact was done, Pyralian turned to Kale. "Young Kale, step forward." Kale gulped and walked up nervously. His mother watched with shining eyes. Pyralian lowered himself until he was eye level with Kale. "You crossed the mountains alone. You faced dragons with only truth in your heart. Because of your courage, two worlds now stand together." Serath nudged Kale happily. "Told you that you were brave." Pyralian continued, "We dragons wish to give you a title, one given only to those who bring unity. You shall be known as—" He lifted his wings. "Kale, the Bridgeborn." The villagers clapped and cheered. The dragons hummed a low, proud vibration that sounded like warm wind blowing across crystal. Kale felt his face turn red. He had never been honored before. He wasn't sure what to say, so he simply smiled wide and bowed his head politely. "Thank you," he said. Pyralian gently placed the polished dragon armor piece, the one Kale had carried to Ember Peak, into his hands. But now it was different. Symbols of peace and unity were carved into it, glowing softly. "Carry this, Kyle, as a sign of the dawn you helped create." Kyle hugged it tightly. A day of celebration. The rest of the day turned into a celebration. Villagers prepared long tables with food, sweet berry pies, roasted vegetables, warm bread with honey. Dragons tried small portions, curious about human flavors. Children asked dragons to lift them gently so they could see high above the ground. Serath spent the whole afternoon giving children small rides in safe circles on the field. "And this," Serath said proudly, "is the softest flying pattern, perfect for humans." Kale's mother watched everything with joy in her eyes. "I never imagined a day like this," she whispered. Kale smiled up at her. "I didn't either. But I hoped." As the sun lowered again, the Heartglow crystal began to shine brighter, sending gentle rainbow light through the square. The dragons lay down beside human families, resting together peacefully. It was hard to believe that just days ago, humans and dragons lived with distance and fear. Now they laughed, worked, and celebrated side by side. Kale looked at the scene around him, children playing with dragonlings, adults speaking calmly with Pyralian, elders lighting lanterns together with young dragons. This was the world he had dreamed of. The final soar. As evening arrived, Pyralian turned to Kale. "It is time for one more moment of unity." Kale blinked. "What moment?" Serath lowered himself in front of Kale. "A final flight. With your mother, too. A flight that shows all humans the start of a new age." Kyle gasped. "Mother? On a dragon?" His mother froze. "Me? Fly?" Pyralian smiled gently. "Only if you wish. We will fly slow, calm, and safe. Humans should see their own kind in the sky, riding beside dragons." Kale squeezed his mother's hand. "You can do it. I'll be right beside you." After a long moment, she nodded. The villagers cheered as Pyralian and Serath rose into the air, Kale on Pyralian's back, his mother on Serath's. The dragons soared slowly over the village, their wings glowing under the sunset. People waved from below. Children jumped excitedly. Elders raised lanterns toward the sky. Kyle felt the wind on his face. He looked down at his mother, who was gripping Serath's scales tightly, but smiling wider than ever before. "Are you okay?" Kyle called out. "Yes," she shouted joyfully. "More than okay." Serath laughed softly. See? Humans are braver than they think. The dragons glided in one graceful circle above the village, marking the start of a new chapter. A chapter of trust, a chapter of understanding, a chapter of shared skies. The new dawn. When they landed, Paralian spoke one final time. Let this day be remembered, not as the day dragons came to your village, but as the day humans and dragons walked and flew side by side. Kale stood proudly beside him, clutching the engraved armor piece. He whispered to himself, "This is only the beginning." And he was right. From that day forward, the valley became a place where humans and dragons lived as true neighbors, sharing stories, skies, festivals, and dreams. All because one small human boy carried courage in his heart and dared to speak the truth.